Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of 1 Million Messengers. I'm your host, Chris Angel. And this week, we're going to talk about how you already know what to do. All right, so let's dive into this conversation of knowing what to do. I always say for years, because that's how long it took me to figure things out. But for years, I learned, I studied, I took courses, I read books, I did all the things, and I was a good student. And along the way, some of the ideas that I learned about resonated with me. I'm like, wow, that's really good. That makes not only emotionally resonated with me, but I could feel it. I'm like, this feels good, or this feels right and true. And then I would move on to the next lesson. And if I was being honest about it, I think a lot of the moving on, I think on the surface of that, moving on was about my curiosity. Oh, I want to understand more about this game of business and this game of my important work in the world. But if I get underneath the curiosity for a moment, I think what has lived there is this fear of doing the things that I learned, the things that resonated, the things that felt true. I was afraid to do them and then have them not work. Mostly because that sucks. That's a sucky feeling to keep pouring your heart into action, productivity, only to have the productivity not work. Like, I have a lot of evidence in my life over the years of doing things that didn't work. And somewhere in there also, I think there's some mindset, some notion that I should be able to learn it once, do it, and then it produces a result, and I shouldn't have to learn it anymore or struggle anymore. So, I mean, obviously, if you've lived any length of time, you know from life that that's not how it goes. Like, in the game of expansion, life is moving from one place you're stuck to another place you're stuck. And the game becomes, how do I get unstuck in this place, right? So that I can produce results in this place, followed by, now that I've mastered this place, what's the next place I get to go to? And we step into the next place. We pursue the next place, like having totally forgotten what the process is. Like, we go, yes, okay, I did it. I'm here. Now what can I create? And we set our eyes on the horizon. We cast vision. We head out into what's next, and then we get stuck again. And we're like, oh my God, I'm stuck again. How am I stuck again? Why does this always happen to me? How am I not further? And we have these short-term memories, maybe, or of like that we were once stuck, or we had these impossible expectations that we shouldn't get stuck. But in the game of expansion, like, this is what it is. What's the alternative? That's one of my favorite questions. What's the alternative? Like, I reach mastery in this level of life, and then what? And then I don't expand. So I just sit here and plateau. I think that's why we constantly try to keep pushing for what's next. Okay, here's where the stuckness compounds, though. The feeling of being stuck gets worse when we learn stuff that feels right and true and good and resonates, and then we don't do anything with it. And then we go learn the next thing, right? Maybe because we weren't getting results, so we created a new goal. We set our eyes on a new horizon, not because of mastery, but because we were stuck over here. So we picked a new goal. And in pursuing that goal, we picked up the books and coaches and we went down the rabbit trail of all the different things we could learn. And we learned all those things, some of which those things felt good and true and resonated. But then we didn't do those things because we still felt stuck, and we weren't able to do it and produce the results. So what do? Do we stay here and root ourselves into the day-to-day tasks and monotony of learning a new skill? Nope. If you're like me, you picked up a different book that inspired you, or heard a podcast and somebody who showed you some other way that you could potentially get the outcome you were looking for, but in a totally different way. And so you set your eyes on that horizon, and you picked up those books and you learned things on that path that also felt right and true and resonated. Can you see that if you did this for a decade after decade, if you did this over time, if this was your pattern, not only would you feel stuck, but if we dove into the misery of all that stuckness, what would happen is you'd start to feel like you weren't the kind of person who could produce the result. You'd start to question yourself. You'd be like, do I really have what it takes? Not because your heart's not good, but because you have all this evidence that shows that you can't somehow figure this out. But do you see like the short-term memory loss here? Like we have learned things that felt true, that resonated, where you were like, this has truth in it. Like if I did this, this would work. You just didn't stick it out long enough. Listen, I just didn't stick it out long enough. I'm going to share with you one of the places that I've done this in my life, and it's super fresh for me. I just spoke about it today in my intensive program. And that is, first of all, let me give you the statement that I spoke to, and then I'll tell you how I have felt stuck here, because I forgot the advice, and then it felt true and right and good, and I forgot it and then didn't do anything with it. The statement is, your success in your area of business and work, right? Your success in your area is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of that thing you do, think of you. Your success is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of the thing you do, think of you. I'll say it one more time. Ready? Your success is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of the thing you do, they think of you. Okay, I heard that early on when I was a real estate agent. There was a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Co-author Dave Jenks used to say that all the time when he would travel the country and teach. I heard it all. I memorized that thing because it made so much sense to me. It rang so true for me. And the reason it's congruent for me is because I'm a relationship guy. I'm not a huge sales and marketing guy. I don't like to market and sell people and close people. I want to have people choose to work with me because they value the relationship and the perspective that I bring. So when I had this thought about like, oh, okay, my success is not in direct proportion to the number of people I close. It's not about closing. It's not in direct proportion to the number of sales calls I have. My success is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of, in this case, putting their important work on loudspeaker, bringing their message to the world, changing the world, and having the infrastructure to do it, having programs, having shows and podcasts and content, having the infrastructure to bring their important work to the world, that when people think about doing that, they think of me. That feels really good to me, because then it's just about me being visible and present and helpful to that, to those people. The problem is that I haven't done a good job of building the number of those people. Do you hear that? I'm being crazy transparent with you right now. Hear this part. What I have done well, I've gone down the different trails into the shadows to find my message. I do that well. I got that dialed. I have my own framework. I've studied for them to leave form there. Like that, I own that. And that's good. And my life experience has brought me to that skill set. Okay. I also own the whole process of how I bring this truth to people, the container in which people move through. Like that feels good to me. That's dialed. So it's not like on this process, I haven't been building infrastructure. It's not that I haven't been creating the foundation that I need in order to bring this work to the world at scale. I have been. And I've been frustrated with my results, with the fruit of it all. Can you relate to this? How many of you have done stuff in the name of your important work and you still feel frustrated by the fruit of it? You're like, when does the fruit show up? I've been tending to these trees forever. I've been working my orchard forever, and yet I don't have the harvest I've been asking for, I've been looking for, I've been working for. What I want to suggest to you, like me, is that some of you may not have even been putting foundation down. You've just been chasing one shiny object after another. Some of you may have been putting foundation down, but you still don't have the harvest you've been looking for. And what I want to suggest to you is that the thing that's missing is something you already know. The thing you've been missing, you already read, you already heard it. You heard it somewhere and you forgot about it. In your stuckness, in your pursuit of what's next, in your curiosity, you've chased new things. And you've been afraid to go all in on the thing you already learned. So back to me for a moment. If we're talking about your success is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of the thing you do, they think of you. To me, I'm clear what that game is. To me, that's about building a database, a fan base, a following, an audience, bigger and bigger audience of people who know what my message is and respect me, thank me for that message. To me, that's the game. And what I have not done is work intentionally to build that audience. Where would this tangibly show up? You could see this reflected in the number of fans I have on a page, the number of people I have in an email list. These are very specific, measurable places that shows up. My success is in direct proportion to the number of people. So what I've spent a lot of time doing is posting. And I've spent money on Facebook ads, but it was, when I teach it, when I speak to it, like I get super fired up and passionate about how true it is. And then just have been afraid to pull the trigger on it. Because what I see, what makes sense to me, like what can't be wrong, what makes sense to me is having content, which I now have, a message, which I now own and have, and bringing that conversation consistently to a growing audience of people. How? Not through organic traffic, right? Because organic traffic, I don't control that, but through paid traffic, by building audiences of people using Facebook's ad platform to find those who engage. How do we do that? Well, if I run, let's say, for example, I run a video ad and I decide I want to track how many people watch a certain percent of that video ad, well, then that's how I can gauge interest, right? And then if I keep nurturing those who watch a certain percent of my video ad, then there is a relationship that is possible. What I've been afraid to do is invest in that strategy. I believe in my bones that strategy will work. And then I conveniently forget about it and chase another shiny object because I'm just too afraid to pull the trigger on making that work. I'm too afraid to invest. I've been too afraid. I'll shift my language here. I've been too afraid to pull the trigger on that. But every time, I just taught it today, every time I teach it, I'm like, this can't be wrong. This is how this will work. And then when it comes time to pull the trigger, when it comes time to invest, put your money where your mouth is, I get scared. What I'm suggesting to you is that you already have the answer. Like it's already been revealed to you somewhere in your journey. And how you know is it felt true and right. You're like, this is what it is. This is the way I'm going to grow my orchard and reap a harvest. Like this is how I do it. And then when it came time to pony up and invest and put your money where your mouth is, you got scared. Like I got scared and you just didn't follow through. So what'd you do? You set your eyes on a new horizon. You picked up a new book. You learned some new things. And now you've got double the confusion because you've entertained more and more ideas that you're still not pulling the trigger on. It doesn't matter. Listen, can you hear that underneath the surface? It doesn't matter how many great ideas you have that you think are true and good and resonate and are right. What's the missing piece here is your willingness, your courage, your willingness to be brave, to pull the trigger, to do the work. That's it. Because if you don't have the bravery to put your money where your mouth is, then what happens is you abandon the strategy that was given to you. You asked for it. It was given to you. You felt resonant with it. There was congruence to it. And then you're like, but I don't know if I want to invest in that. And you went and chose some other path, some other horizon, some other guru, some other knowledge. And you may have even gone down the road of that knowledge to develop the skills and all the things. But when it came time to invest your resources, and resources could be time, energy, and money, the cost became too much and you just didn't go. You just didn't settle down and settle into what there was to do about what you know would work for you. So here's the good news for me. I'm using this episode. This is episode 7 of 1 Million Messengers. I'm using this episode as a way to out myself. I'm outing myself to you. I am outing myself to you. And I am saying, like, I am clear as a bell that this thing, this strategy would produce a result, will produce a result. And now I get to put my money where my mouth is. I heard this advice at the age of, I must have been somewhere, I was in my 20s, 26, 27. Your success is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of the thing that you do, think of you. I'm now 44. That's roughly 20 years of knowing that, feeling that to be true, and not putting my money where my mouth is because I was too afraid. I've been afraid for 20 years to put my money where my mouth is. I've been afraid for 20 years to invest in the thing I know to be true. Will it take you 20 years? Will you postpone the thing that feels true to you for 20 years? Will you do that? Or will you learn from my failing forward? Will you learn from my mistake and go, okay, I hear what Chris is saying. I surrendered to the thing that has been revealed and shown to me, the thing that I felt was true, the thing that felt in complete congruence with who I am and where I'm headed. And I will pull the trigger on that. When others say it's wrong, when others say that's not what's happening right now, it's not popular, it's not trendy, when everybody says you're crazy because you felt it was true, will you invest in that? You know what to do. You saying you don't know what to do is a distraction at best. That's a ruse. That is a ruse for you not pulling the trigger on the thing you already know to do. Do you hear this? You already know to do something. Maybe it's not the pinnacle of answers. It's not like the key to ascension, but you have been given a next step, a right next step, a true next step, a best next step. And you've just been too afraid. You have not been brave to pull the trigger on that next step. I'm not blaming you. I'm not preaching at you. I'm not even saying that shouldn't be the case for you. Because I'm outing myself in this episode and telling you that's how it's been for me for roughly 20 years. Thankfully, I've been able to build some infrastructure along the way, some foundation that is so my stumbling forward has not been for naught. I've implemented many good things that will support the growth of what it is I'm building. And I'm revisiting something that I learned close to 20 years ago that was true and is true for me today. And it's the only missing piece is for me to be brave and to invest in it. By the way, side note, what's interesting about that, I've invested a lot, like the amount I would need to invest financially to grow this number of people who, when they think of the thing I do, think of me, is not, I have spent more money than it would take to do that. Isn't that weird? Like when it comes to investing money in that one strategy, I get scared about the money piece of it. But when I look at where I've spent money in other places in the name of trying to find some quicker path or faster answer, I've spent way more than I think it will take to do what I'm trying to do. Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? So this is, we could wrap, we're close to wrapping here. Here's what's interesting. It's great to just like, this is why I say business is like the ultimate personal development program. As a business person, you get to keep pressing into where you keep shrinking, sabotaging. And one of the best places to look is where you get stuck. Where are you stuck? And then look for, is there already an answer there? Do you already have an answer there? Was something already revealed that you felt to be true and congruent for you? And what did you do about it? How far did you take the strategy that you felt like you could implement and then, stopped? What's required of you and me is that you and I get brave to put our money where our mouth is. I'm not asking you to invest in something that feels risky, right? Or at least something that feels incongruent. I'm not asking you to invest in something that hasn't rung true for you. I'm saying you've been given, the universe opened up in all its wisdom and it provided you with an answer. And if that answer felt good to you in the moment and you just got scared and forgot about it conveniently and chased other things, what's missing is your willingness to be brave, to follow the path that was shown to you. That's what I get to do right now. And I'm not saying that, a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, you won't find yourself in a similar position, because there's always, in the game of expansion, there's always the next thing that we're like, oh, that feels good, but I don't know, I'm scared to do it. And then if your pattern's like my pattern, you'll find some other thing to get curious about, distract yourself, that is a ruse for doing the work. All right, gang. So we can wrap with this. Look, I'm assuming that you're a messenger because this show is dedicated to messengers. If you're a messenger, there is something about bringing your message to the world that you feel called to do, and you've been given a way to do that. You just need to follow through. If you have not been given a way, I have ways. I've been building. Even though I haven't invested, I'm already clear. I have the foundation. What's the good news for me is all that's left for me is to go build the audience, because everything else is there now. If you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the foundation to hold your message and all the people you intend that message for, then I have built a community for you. It's a free community called 1 Million Messengers. And on Mondays, we release these episodes. These are public episodes, but they become content for fodder, if you will. They become a spark for content later in the week. Because on Wednesdays, in that group, we do a free Facebook Live. I call it a deep dive live, where we go in deeper into the methods of this very topic, right? Of the week's topic. And then on Fridays, I do a Zoom Q&A with those who want to show up. It's all free. It's there for you as a resource. And on Thursdays, I send out an email to those who are in the group that want to have resources and tools and infrastructure. I send you, it's all free. I send this to you. And it's why? Because it's a part of me incubating your important work in the world. If you do your important work and I do my important work, then we change the world. Do I have additional programs for you? Yes, I do. If you ever felt like, hey, Chris has been providing tons of value and I love the way Chris talks about things, I think Chris could help me, then there is a path up the mountain called Your Important Work that I have mapped out. I have led people through. I have been on myself. And those paid programs are there to support you in bringing your important work to the world, okay? But you don't have to start there. In fact, you can't start there. The place you start is in 1 Million Messengers Facebook group. So go to Facebook, type in 1 Million Messengers. You can see it easily, or go to facebook.com/groups/1 Million Messengers, and you can just ask to join the group there. Thank you for hanging out with me, gang, in this episode 7. It's so important to me that you feel equipped to bring your important work to the world and that you step into that work bravely, because that is the only thing that changes the world. Here's to you, gang, stepping into your important work with all the bravery in the world.